Hey y'all, welcome back. We are Pack Rats MTG. I'm Patrick here with my bro Cam, and today we're going to be talking about 4 essentials of a healthy play group. Before we get into it, I want to remind you to, if you like this video that you're about to see, or if you've liked any of our past videos, or if you just want to do us a favor, go ahead and press subscribe and like this video, hit the bell, turn the notifications on, leave us a comment, all of that good stuff. So let's jump into this thing.
All right, so the essentials of a healthy play group. We're bringing you 4 different essentials of a healthy play group. Number 1 is level the playing field, guys. So if you've got a bunch of guys that are on different scales of the power level, it's probably going to pose for an unfun night of Magic. Now, our play group tends to be anywhere from 6 to 8 dudes, and it'll grow and it'll shrink.
That's what she said.
And wax and wane, but the whole point is that we try to keep our power levels even. So instead of having one guy that's loaded with mana crypts and Grim Monoliths and old school combo pieces and tutors, and then you got another guy right across from him, and he can barely afford Llanowar Elves to ramp in his green deck, that's going to pose for a pretty imbalanced playing field. So what we want to do when we form play groups is we want to make sure that we set an understood rule set for deck building specifically. So you want to make sure that you guys are hovering around the same power level to make sure that the games are not warped in terms of the amount of time so-and-so is going to win versus another person simply because they have better cards. What are your thoughts about this, Patrick?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also worth saying that you know, if people are very aware of the differential in power, like if they know that, you know, these 4 people have you know, really stronger, more tuned, optimized decks, and then these 4 people kind of play on the more casual side, then that's fine too. I mean, you guys can share the same room, you know, have the same meal, have the same beer,
Still like beer?
and still, you know, kind of congregate. But just, you know, and then the lower level people can play amongst themselves, and the higher level people can go at it. So you can make it work with different play groups. But if you really want to make it like kind of a central, all-encompassing, everyone focused on a very similar thing, yeah, it's good to kind of have a homogeneous difficulty and power level. For sure.
Absolutely. And I can say, guys, that with our particular play group, there is a differential when it comes to access to certain cards. We have some guys that are newer to the game. We have guys like us that have been around for a while and have had a chance to collect some cards that are very high powered that we got when they were cheap because we just happened to be around. So for instance, we were talking about Grim Monoliths the other day. I got a play set of 4 of them for like $2 a piece back in the day. Well, they're now worth, you know, a couple $100 a piece.
$1 million.
So for the newer guys that are in the play group, they don't have access to those things. So there's now kind of an understood rule that none of us are going to play Grim Monoliths just because it brings a specific speed to those of us who actually have them that other guys don't have, and that just makes for an unfun experience.
Yeah, that's right. So with that, let's move on to maybe the most important point here, and that is what we're calling the yin and yang of culture. And this is a really subtle, complex topic with lots of kind of inbuilt dimensions. But the main idea is the balance between openness and what would you say, pointedness.
What you talking about, Willis?
Openness and camaraderie. I mean, like, you want to have people who are like-minded, who share similar values. I mean, we can talk about very basic values like, you know, you don't want to smash each other's cards. You don't want to, you know, get in fist fights across the table or something, like quell those primal instincts. But you also want to let people in that don't share, you know, let's say of the 8 guys, you know, 7 of them want to have a beer or a drink or whatever, and the other one doesn't want to. Well, that's not something to say, that's not something to oust the 8th person over, right? And there are plenty of those sorts of things in kind of the cultural and social landscape that you do want to make room for. So you do want to be as open as possible, but you do still want to kind of keep a familiar and you know, single-mindedness also. So what do you think about that balance, Cam? What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Boo, it's really nuanced, and it's complex, and it's complicated. And so we could probably talk for hours on this because it affects every aspect of a playgroup's dynamics. But, you know, a lot of us are married in our playgroup, as an example. And so there's this understood grace in scheduling, like, hey, we just can't make it. We have other plans with our in-laws or whatever. There's a lot of those things that kind of go along in the dance of the playgroup dynamics. A few of us have kids, you know, so those of us that have kids have to generally start our evenings later because we want to put them down so we're not leaving our spouses at home, you know, running around chasing the little ones, trying to get them to bed alone. Just stuff like that, you know, and it's going to look different for every playgroup. You guys have to find what works best for you.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
But as Patrick pointed out, it's about finding that nice balance of like, okay, we want people that are in somewhat of a similar life space as us so that it's not this big access gap, but we also don't want to just be echo chambers either. In fact, there's quite often when we get in discussions at the magic table about politics and religion and these big topics that are very heavy that we don't all agree on, and we have good discussions and very respectable discussions. And that's because we've been able to strike a really healthy balance. And frankly, Patrick, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, but I'm really proud of our playgroup. I love my playgroup. We have a great group of guys.
I absolutely love our playgroup. Yeah, we're definitely very fortunate to have a group of guys that we do. And hopefully we'll have some women in our playgroup at some point too. That'd be cool, you know?
Yeah, just to change it up. We'll see if we can wrangle our wives into
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I know we're all trying. Also, maybe one last thing on this note before we move on is this can easily turn into like a paralysis by analysis, and we don't want it to. It's not like you want to sit there like, all right, get out your contacts list and build up your potential play group. Now you have to do all of this, you know, number crunching and, oh, is this going to work with blah, blah, blah. No, it's just the primary goal is to play Magic. But also when you're thinking about who you're going to play Magic with, it's nice to have these things in the back of your head. So we're just trying to give a little structure to optimizing the Magic experience, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is to play Magic. So
yes, absolutely. And with that, you're trying to play Magic and you're trying to have as much of an enjoyable experience while doing so. And so we just want to remove the rate limiting factors from that process. That's the big key. Have fun. Enjoy the process. So guys, number 3, we're calling on and off the field. And this could easily go into category number 2, but we wanted to put it as its own separate category for a couple of reasons. What we mean by on and off the field is if you're just having a night where you're getting train wrecked by one person and you just can't get your draws on, you're getting mana screwed, you can't get your combo pieces set up, whatever, you're just getting wrecked. You guys need to be able to walk away from that game, have a beer and a laugh, and move on with your friendship. It should never be one of those things where your Magic playgroup becomes an environment of animosity ever.
Right.
Which is why rule number 2 is so important, because we want enriching, enlivening relationships that also have this revolution around this beautiful game that Richard Garfield introduced to us so many years ago.
Yep.
You know, and along those same lines, I would even say that the on and off the field facet covers the fact that it's good to have friendship outside of Magic. So yeah, you have a play group that the sole purpose of sitting down here tonight is to play Magic, but we care about what's going on in each other's lives. We care that Patrick is pursuing a PhD and that I'm running a business and this guy over here is teaching classes and this guy over here is engineering, and we care about all those things. And I think that's what's so important about point number 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I've gotten salty while playing. You've gotten salty while playing. It happens to the best of us. But if you can kind of set that as a marker, you know, as kind of a little personal growth and kind of motivate yourself and try to rise above and have fun in the losing, it makes, obviously it's more enjoyable for your opponent or opponents, but it's also more enjoyable for you at the end of the day. So cool. With that being said, let's move on to the final point, which is sharing is caring. And this is a really fun one for us because Cameron and I have been playing much longer than, well, yeah, I mean, much longer than most of our play group, and certainly longer than all of our play group. Right? Like Christian's been playing for quite a while, but we've been playing much longer than the other guys. But and that being said, we've got like generally a larger collection, and so what can be a larger collection as well as kind of more knowledge of maybe older cards that some of the newer players aren't really aware of. So when you're playing with someone and you see, their deck across the table and they're trying to do the strategy, and you go, have you ever considered this card? And they go, I don't know what that is. What is that? And then you tell them, and then if you happen to have the card on, you can say, here, try it out or something. That's really fun for us to do. I've done that before. I'm sure you've done that before, Cam. The other thing about sharing is caring is just sharing in terms of just leniency. If someone doesn't have a few cards, let them proxy. If someone forgot, this certain deck, or they forgot all their deck, they forgot their Magic stuff, give them a deck to play. Those sorts of things. And not only does that maximize the amount of Magic that's being played, but it also just adds some cool trust and camaraderie and goodwill to the play group as well.
Yeah, and you could almost call this rule, like we're calling it sharing is caring, you could almost call it the Good Samaritan rule. Like you said,
right.
Like if a player forgets a deck, or they forget a card, or maybe they can't afford something right now, maybe they're tight on cash, and that $10 land is out of their reach, and you happen to have it on you, throw it their way. And I can also say, Patrick, like you said, we've passed cards to all of our play group, and I've borrowed cards from several of the people in our play group. And it's just because they happen to have it, it's immediate right there, it makes sense in the deck. Sure, you take this, I'll take this. It's not a trade, it's just helping each other out. And what that does, guys, especially when you have this pre-agreed upon, let's say, range of power, is that it allows everybody to kind of maximize what they're doing, like Patrick pointed out, to really bring out the fullness of the Magic experience that night. Because if everybody's on top of their game and playing a deck that's full of cards that they're enjoying, that are synergistic, and that are doing what they want them to do, you're going to have a better night with your play group. End of story.
Yep.
All right, guys. Listen, that was the 4 essentials of a healthy play group. We'll be bringing you more lists, more ideas with all the different segments we're going to be coming with. We got box breaks coming. We have Philosophorexias. We have Keep It or Cull It's, and even some other fun stuff that are upper sleeves that we haven't released yet, that we're waiting to be able to get out to you guys. So make sure, again, that you head on down below, hit the subscribe button, make sure you like the video, comment on the video, and by all means, please share this with anybody and everybody you know in the community. We love the Magic community. We want to be a part of the greater community as much as we can. With that, guys, have a great West or whatever, and we'll see you soon.